إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل فقد فاز المتقون وأذكركم ونفسي بقول الله تبارك وتعالى كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With his divine support, we made it again to Friday in our crawling towards what is right and the process of learning. Last Friday we spoke about the final step in the process of life and aging is to die. And when we die, we just practice our nature. And this is the end of our journey. And we come to know that تعددت الأسباب والموت واحد من لم يمت بالسيف مات بغيره تعددت الأسباب والموت واحد. If you don't die by sword, by bullet, by anything, a killing weapon, we will die with another way. There are so many ways to die, but death is one. But what will be the vehicle, we don't know. So we have not to worry about that, but what is after death? فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ. We just want to go home safe. And to go home means I want to share with you one of the proverbs of the indigenous people, the Aboriginal proverb, said by David Avocado Wolf. We all are visitors to this time and this place. We listen to it carefully. It is the nature, the people in their fitra, in their normal proposition talking. Since the Prophet ﷺ told us, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. Every newborn is born on the fitra, clean, pure, obedient. But the family, the parents, the environment, the teachers may deform them from their proper proposition. So the indigenous proverb says, we all are visitors to this time and this place. It means we will pass time and pass the place. We are not here for permanent way. And then he said, we all are passing through. Our purpose in life is to observe, learn, grow, and love, and then we return home. I wonder what is home. And who told you about this home? I wonder, our purpose is to observe. Observe what? The open book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we call science. The verses and the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the classroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is this universe. Observe the sun and it moves. The moon, the mountains, the wind, the ocean, and everything else. When we observe, we will grow. And what is that growth? When we observe, we will learn something. And when we learn, we grow and progress into our purpose to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. But only when we observe, learn, grow, love, and then we return home, and which is Jannah. Somehow, the truth is in everybody until we cover it up, and then we become a kafir. A kafir is someone who covers up the truth. But once they don't know it yet, we call them potential believers and potential Muslims. So we talk about death then, it is our nature, and one day we will go back home, inshallah. In order to know our way home, we need to learn. And the Quran is the textbook. If you find yourself every day, you'll face in on the Quran for one page, or memorize new ayah, or read new surah. If you find yourself every day in the dhikr and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you find yourself every day, you never miss your salat, and you do it with love, remember you have been chosen. Because Allah said in the Quran, ثُمَّ أَوْرَثْنَا الْكِتَابَ الَّذِينَ اصْطَفَيْنَا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. After that, we gave our book as inheritance to the chosen one among our servants. And we need to do some effort in order to become chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In order to observe, we need a teacher, and we need a textbook. Again, I want us to go and travel very far to find wherever Luqman lived, because he was a teacher with wisdom. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned his story with his son in the eternal book, the Quran, the only book which is hope for humanity when they live in darkness. And also we know when we become educated religiously, Islamically, we will become free and we don't work with blindness anymore. And that's why Ibn al-Jawzi said, من تلبيس إبليس على الناس صدهم عن العلم لأن العلم نور فإذا أطفأ مصابيحهم خبطهم في الظلام إلى أي شيء مخطئ. One of the ways Iblis used to misguide mankind is to block you from learning. This is a musibah. When we are no longer learning about Islam, we are satisfied with what we have, and we should never be satisfied with knowledge. You can be satisfied with money, with presents, with anything, but with knowledge, we should never be satisfied. Why? Because the more we know, the more we realize that we don't know anything yet. Since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَوْ أَنَّمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ أَقْلَامٍ وَالْبَحْرِ يَمُدُّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ سَبْعَةُ أَبْحُرٍ مَا نَفِدَتْ كَلِمَاتُ اللَّهِ. If all the trees on earth were pens, and the ocean were ink, with 7 more oceans added to it, it will never exhaust the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means what we know is very little, and there is a lot we don't know, and a lot we will never know. But let us remain someone who seeks for knowledge. Since the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said it, Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim. We all believe it is fard to pray 5 times a day. It is fard to fast in the month of Ramadan. It is fard to pay the zakat and go to Hajj. But I wonder how many believe it is fard to learn. Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim. And once we don't know, we become slaves to somebody's method or somebody's ideology. The only way to be free men and women and live accordingly is to know. And this Quran started with Iqra, read. Read what? What Allah wants us to read. And truly when we read the Quran, the end of the surah told us, Fasjud waqtarib. True education will make you submit and bow down to do the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we read and learn, we become kind and very kind. Since we know 3 very important things every human needs to have, 3 of them. Number 1, to be kind. Number 2, to be kind. And number 3, to be kind. على الإنسان أن يكون رحيما لأن الرحمة تجمع البشر. Everybody should be kind because kindness will put us together. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded the last prophet, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, with his mission. What is that? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. O Muhammad, the only reason we sent you and made you exist into this universe, you will be the source of mercy and kindness to the universe, to human, to jinn, and to everything else. And if we don't have akhlaq, we will not be kind. Since Ibn al-Qayyim said, الدين كله خلق فمن زاد عليك في الخلق زاد عليك في الدين. The fruit and the core and the purpose of the deen is to do what? To become a human being with moral values, high character and noble one. Once we don't have that, it means the vehicle of salat and fasting and reading the Quran and going to Mecca, it did not work. Why? Because we don't have the akhlaq yet. So we are going to go in a very humble way and sit down behind the door of Luqman to listen what he says to his son, because he spoke to him a lot. He was a teacher, wise, he was a father, he was a husband. And we know nowadays there's a lot of pressure from parents to children and from children to parents. And sometimes you wonder, you ask yourself, I don't know if it is me going through hard time or it is a hard time going through me. But I am sure we go through something together. Sometimes we think it is the kid's fault, and the kids think it is the parents' fault. But we have the reference. And what is that? The Quran and the sound sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. With this, we will never be confused. We get confused because we deviate from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. The one the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam taught us throughout his life for 23 years. Before that, for 40 years, he shows the world his noble character. And no one can pick on him and say, you did this or you did that to me. And then he taught us the Quran and the Sunnah, and it was complete. And Abdullah bin Mas'ud used to say, ittabi'u wa la tabtadi'u faqad kufitum. Follow and don't invent. It is guaranteed that if you follow, you will make it home to Jannah. But our problem is that sometimes we do what we are told not to do, and we leave what we are told to do undone. Let us go now to the classroom of Luqman and see what curriculum he prepared for his son. Every time I visit this topic, because as you know, the Quran always flows. Endless knowledge coming out of it all the time. And the more we grow, the more we learn more from the same ayah. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Sometimes to touch people's heart, as we know, what teachers do. They hold our hand, open our mind, and touch our heart. How to do that? We need to find our ways and the right keys to open the heart, and then we can put in it, store in it whatever we want. Look at the way he called him, Ya Bunayya, oh my son. The way we call them makes a big difference. The way we talk to them, the method of passing on the message makes a difference. We need to be loved, and we need to feel that we are loved. Ya Bunayya, La tushrik billah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. And why I came up with this topic? Because we are on the season of a global kufr. Some people use the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam into kufr. Some people use the Prophet Isa alayhi salam into kufr. Prophet Musa alayhi salam into kufr. Some people use their imams, their sheikh or mullah into kufr. And we are told only to follow them to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam warned us about the invisible shirk. People do it without knowing. It is when we make something else more important and worthy than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many people in the world are in this trap. In the name of loving Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the name of loving Isa alayhi salam, we deviated from their teaching. But we want to listen to this lesson, inshallah. Ya bunayya la tushrik billah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. Luqman always was a man, he never be the reason for his son to be insecure, and we should never be. None of us should be the reason for someone to be insecure. We have to be the reason for someone to feel seen and heard and fully supported by the whole universe. We don't want to cause someone to cry or go into anxiety. We want to cause people to smile, to laugh, and to become hopeful, to confront hopelessness. Time is very hard, and parents need to review the way we talk to our children because they're grown up. Last week at the Islamic school where I am, one of the girls came to me and crying very hard. Why you're crying? My mom said that she regret giving birth to me. I don't know what to do with myself. Imagine the damage we can cause when we talk to them like that. I regret giving birth to you. And I said to her, you know what that means? She is very proud of you. She just wants you to turn. And if you turn and change, she will say to you, I am proud of you. You are the best I have. Parents are communicating their emotion out, and we need to understand. And if there is someone who needs to come to put meaning for the word love, the only people to put a meaning for it is the father and the mother. We know it or we not. Even when they are angry because they care. If they don't, they let us go. So we need to remember that. Everybody in this dunya may love you for a reason, but the true love is the love of the father and the mother. Why? because they have the feeling of responsibility for a soul inside their soul. So forgive them and go beyond their words and find what they mean when they talk like that. But meanwhile, we have to be very careful because a word can build or destroy. And that's why the Quran reminded us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُوا الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنزَغُ بَيْنَهُم. Tell my servants to say the best, otherwise remain silent. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. And when you talk to mankind, choose the best to say, otherwise remain silent. Don't make people suffer in silence. And this lady who said, Maya Angelou, who said long time ago, I came to learn that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And words put feeling in us. Words can transform us to become the best people. Umar bin Khattab, what changed his life? Few verses from Surah Taha. He was bullying Islam and the Muslims, but he had a good heart. And a good heart, when they are challenged with the truth, they submit to it. And when he reads these verses, Taha, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa, illa tadhkiratan liman yakhsha, tanzilan mimman khalaqa al-ard was-samawati al-ula, ar-Rahman ala al-arsh istawa. And keep on going. When he read this, what happened? Revolution of the truth took over his heart, and he submitted, and he was making his worst footsteps in his life. He was going to kill the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and by doing that, he will become the worst, because the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Sharrun nas man qatala nabiyyan aw qatalahu nabiy. Umar was about to do this, because he didn't know. And then, after these verses, he went to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to become a Muslim. So we need to learn how to talk to our children. They are in trouble. They are swimming in the mud, in the society, and they're doing their best to survive their Islam, and they need to feel loved. Meanwhile, the pressure on the parents is so tough, and sometimes we think our kids don't care. They do. But they're swimming in the mud, and you cannot swim in the mud and come out clean. But, Ya bunayya la tushrik billah, oh my son, no matter what happens to you in your life, do not pollute the shahada. When you say la ilaha illallah, you mean it. And don't compromise. Even if you lose everybody and everything, but tell the world, me you cannot have because I belong to Allah. I signed a contract with Allah. And once you do that, Allah say to us, Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi-anna lahumul jannah. Our life, our wealth does not belong to us anymore. Allah bought it from us, and He paid the price with Jannah. If we deviated, we cheated in the deal, and that's not fair. So no shirk, no matter what happens, remember who you are. I am a soldier of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and we will never go away from his footsteps. This is the most important subject in the successful curriculum of education, to avoid the shirk. No one should be in our mind when we talk and when we do and when we live, even if we have to lose our lives. Why? Because that is the only purpose why we live, to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do His will. And once we do that, we become fearless. And when we become fearless, your life becomes limitless. And the only one who will drive your footsteps is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the guidance of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. This topic is long, but to start with the most important item in our classroom. While we live in a world that dismisses Allah from the public school of life, you go to many schools, learning place, Allah is thrown out. No religious book, no prophet, And they say only science. They failed in defining science. What is science? They went into the darkness of it, while Allah told us only the true scientist will fear Allah properly. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. But when we are fake scientists, we use it to go into more darkness. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الكريم وجعلنا وإياكم من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. عباد الله، قال تعالى: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Dear believers, to summarize, we need to review our shahada and our relation to our salat, our Quran, because Allah said in the Quran, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. Before anything happens to us, message will come. For example, before our body gets sick, it will whisper. It is fatigue, but sometimes we ignore. We don't pay attention. Before we break up, the lover will whisper their concerns, but sometimes we don't listen. Before a business company becomes bankrupt, the customers will explain their complaints. But when we don't listen to this whisper, we will be forced to hear the scream. Sometimes there is a whisper in me. How come? How long ago I never opened the Quran and read anymore? What happened? How long ago I never prayed tahajjud? There is a whisper. How long ago I never look at my father's face and my mother and say, how are you, my father and my mother? What is happening? We are forgetting the main purpose of our life. Some people's salat is dying, relation with the Quran is dying, and if you don't make a move, it will completely go, and somebody will tell you one day, read Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, and we stuck. Because we didn't listen to the whisper, we will be forced to hear the scream. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us go back into the true education of Islam, the Quran and the Hadith, if we want to prosper. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أحسن ختامنا وأخرجنا من الدنيا مسلمين. اللهم أحسن ختامنا وأخرجنا من الدنيا مسلمين. اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق وأعمالنا من الرياء وألسنتنا من الكذب وأعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم انتصر للمستضعفين في كل مكان وعليك بالطغاة الظالمين فإنهم لا يعجزونك يا حي يا قيوم. وأقم الصلاة.